What is happening in Georgia when it comes to voting rights legislation?
Well, in Georgia, there are two large bills and uncounted more small bills that are basically trying to cut back access to the ballot, whether it's making it harder to vote absentee, cutting back how long you early vote, like the time period before the actual election day when you can vote. They're trying to strip the Secretary of State of some of the powers he had to adjust for the pandemic. It's just a plethora of things. And the final thing, I think the one that may finally get business to step forward is they're trying to get rid of no excuse absentee voting, which has been around for 15 years.
Georgia is we're talking about this. What is the ultimate fear with all of this? I mean, at the end of the day, what this does is it cuts off access to people voting and disproportionately affects Black Americans, right?
Yes, and one of the things they're specifically doing is trying to cut Sunday voting, which is heavily used by the Black community in Georgia, in half. It generally will probably hurt minority voters most.
Why is this all happening in Georgia? Because this is happening in Republican state legislatures nationwide and also on the national level.
It's a reaction to the debunked claims about the stolen election. It's being justified as a way to prevent voter fraud that no one has really shown actually happened. Now, if you hear Republicans here talk about it, they say that the pandemic showed incredible stress on the election system that they're just trying to fix. But most of the things they are doing don't seem to have anything to do with fraud per se.
So I want to get to the core of what you wrote about in your recent article for Bloomberg News that focuses on corporate responses to what's happening. How are corporations, and look, the context of this is that Georgia, and Atlanta in particular, is a place where there are a lot of corporate headquarters for national companies and international companies. How have they been responding to these moves in the Georgia legislature, and how is that different than how they responded to the wake of the January 6th attack on the Capitol or even voting in 2020?
Yes, the corporations here were, they really stepped up to make the voting work in 2020, and they sort of bucked the idea that mail-in voting was a bad idea. They really encouraged it. They donated time, money, staff, IT personnel, everything to make it work smoothly. And then they were also, many of the corporations here were among those that cut off funding to people who had advanced the stolen election myth before the Capitol riot. They have been much more muted about the state legislation, and that's kind of true across the country. But they have put out statements, but they are statements saying that they believe in democracy, they believe in voting access, that it should be as broad as possible, but that it should be balanced with security. And that's where the activists are upset with them, because there has been no proven, shown security problem in the Georgia election at all. So they seem to be sort of putting an olive branch out to these people that are saying we need to tighten this because there was voter fraud when there wasn't.
Based on your reporting, we'll go ahead. Based on your reporting and what the activists have told you, do you believe or do you anticipate that we will start to see companies take a stronger stance one way or another?
Yes, they have not. I mean, they started off taking no stance opposing the bills, just this generic stance. They have now said, the Georgia Chamber, which represents all of these companies, has said that they don't like unspecified parts of two of the bills. No one knows what those parts are. What the activists want is for them to sort of go full-throated in opposition, because they can be very powerful when they oppose something.
Bloomberg News' Margaret Newkirk. Margaret, thanks so much for taking the time and for joining us on Quick Take today. We appreciate it.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.